Good morning. Morning. So, my name is Larry Chan, and along with my coworker today, Sonia Wu, we are working in the engineering department, and we are building change data capture. And this is something that we want to share with you today. We have some very exciting demos, and we have some very exciting news also. But before I get into that forward-looking statement, basically, I'm not going to read this, but it means that as a customer, you want to base your buying decisions on what is available today at salesforce.com. So, quickly, what is change data capture? Change data capture is the process of capturing data at your data source and apply it throughout your enterprise. So, for example, let's say you want to build a replication system. You want to replicate some of your system's data into another system. So what this means is whenever the data is changed at one data source, you want to synchronize it into your second system. This is what we mean by change data capture. So what does it mean for Salesforce? It means that whenever you create a record, whenever you update a record, delete or undelete, we are going to actually fire what we call a change data event to notify any subscriber of the system of the change that's happening inside of Salesforce. And it enables you to actually build integration solutions between your external system or between your internal system and the Salesforce system that you have that you're running today. So let's take an example here. Go back to the earlier example that I gave, a replication solution. So on the left-hand side, we have a Salesforce system. You have an Acme account. In your external system, this is what you want to replicate. You have also an Acme account. So if someone changed the account name from Acme to Acme 2, what's going to happen is your Salesforce system is going to change. Change data capture is going to fire a change event so that your external system would be notified, your external system would be subscribing to this event, and then your system is going to apply the changes that is in the change event. So let's go through some of the options that you have today. Basically, they're divided into two main categories, polling versus streaming. So by polling, you can do SQL. I think what I want to describe in terms of what you're doing with SQL to actually implement data change capture is what I call sysmod timestamp hell. So I came from a data warehouse background, and I know how hard it is to actually get that right, especially if you have multiple objects that you want to pull. So you can also do replication API. Replication API is this get updated call that you can actually get all the changes within the timestamp. It still makes your client very complicated, and it actually makes your change data capture logic very, very complicated because you still have to deal with this sysmod timestamp hell. Streaming, we have streaming API available, but unfortunately, streaming API is only available on 7 standard objects. For example, you want to do order, you want to do order item, you want to do event, they are not available today. These are the drawbacks. Also, you can do platform events. Platform event is great. I think you have probably seen a lot of demos in the past few days, but platform event suffers from a drawback because you actually have to code your change capture logic in a Salesforce trigger. So it's not very elegant in the sense that you still have to maintain your change data capture code and your change processing code. So what we have been building in the past 1+ year is what we call a change data capture system. So very important, we are going to actually provide you with a stream where it's going to deliver you events in transactional order. This means that when you are building a replication system, you don't have to guess. You don't have to compare sysmod timestamps everywhere to make sure that your integrity constraints are preserved. Also, we have this very, very ambitious goal that we eventually want to support all S objects within Salesforce. It's a very elegant solution because it isolates your change capture logic from your change processing logic. So it makes a better architecture, in my opinion. Also, one of the things, probably from our perspective, is that the change event is actually going to be in the change event store, which is different from the Oracle database in our backend. So what it means is that when events are streaming to the subscribers, we are not actually putting load onto our Oracle database. I think you customers probably don't care because this is our problem. But if all the customers are actually going to switch to change data capture, it will actually make the Salesforce system run faster eventually. Also, it makes for a simple subscriber. You don't have to do all these very complex logic. Change capture is done by us in our system ourselves. Customers only care about how to apply the changes and how to process the changes. So we're going to give a demo. We have a fictional company called Ikemoto. The Ikemoto is an eyeglass company. So they're running their order system in Salesforce, but they keep their inventory system outside of Salesforce in the external system. Of course, this is actually a very, very simple demo to illustrate what change data capture is. It's not a full-blown inventory system. And we're going to also contrast two approaches. One is doing the replication API, the get updated API, and how we can also use change data capture. We're going to contrast the two approaches. We're going to see some code. So Sonia, give it back to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Larry. Good morning, everyone. This is Sonia Wu. I'm working on change data capture team with Larry and the team. So today I'm going to share the story about change data capture and how that works with the Ikemoto sunglasses. Ikemoto sunglasses is a very successful business in the Bay Area, and they actually have 2 stores in the Bay Area. So they're a loyal customer of Salesforce, and kudos to their 2 excellent store managers, Nancy and Bob. They're doing a great job running the 2 stores as well as keeping an eye on the inventory to make sure the stock doesn't go too low. If that ever happens, they want to get alerted automatically and then backfill the inventory as soon as possible. So to achieve that goal, actually Bob has built a Heroku app very early on, leveraging the replication API that Larry already mentioned, get updated, to periodically pull the data from Salesforce about the new orders, what's the quantity, and deduct that from the inventory balance. So that you can see on the left side of the screen, we can see the bottom browser that shows the inventory table that has all the product info and the quantity so far in every single line. At the same time, Nancy, who is fairly new to Salesforce and the Ikemoto sunglasses, but she happened to learn about the change data capture just recently in a Trailhead session. So she decided to give it a try because she learned good things about it and she wanted to try it out. And she built another one on the top. That is a CDC app. CDC stands for Change Data Capture. And also shows the same inventory content that has all the information, the quantity at the same time, points to the same database on Heroku side. So Ikemoto sunglasses has to make a decision which one to go with because they want to only use one version of it. Let's do some comparison here. Let's go through this real scenario when the sales manager has to handle one order. All right, so let's go to the order in Salesforce and then make a new order from here. And we have to fill out all the required fields. That's the account name, that's the status of the order, draft, and then pick the start date of the order. That's today. Let's save it. And next, you have to pick your products. They're selling all the very popular series of sunglasses. They like Apollo and Iris, and then we specify the quantity. So we pick Apollo 1 and Iris 80 because Iris is more popular in the market. So please hold tight to your coffees, breakfast, and breathing because I'm going to show you the very magical moment of the comparison. Let's hit save. And then mark the status complete. All right. Here we go. On the top of the screen, you can see CDC app already got the numbers back and reflected on the inventory right away. That is 99 on Apollo and 20 on Iris because the number goes so low, so they get a visual alert already. immediately to Nancy so she can file the order to vendors to fill up the inventory. And then Bob is still waiting. So Bob is waiting for what? Because the 1 minute inventory, 1 minute interval, that's going to get the numbers back pretty slower. And you can argue that, how about we just shorten the interval to like half a minute? 5 seconds? What, for 1 second? Oh, that theoretically that's gonna work. But keep in mind that Salesforce has the general recommendation. You don't want to shorten your interval less than 5 minutes. Why? Because once you do that, you are gonna put yourself on the higher risk of running into what? API limit errors very soon. All right, Bob now gets back the numbers properly. All right. So besides the real-time effect that you all see here, what else CDC can provide you? Let's move back to the logs interval to show you a bit more what's going on in the behind the scenes. So we have the intervals actually running to pull the Heroku logs. We asked Bob and Nancy to write down their raw data retrieved from Salesforce, so you can see what's the information provided by CDC versus get updated. On the API side, as you can see, we retrieve back the record ID, that is the order item ID. And what else? The product code and the quantity of 1 at first for Apollo, and then a second one, quantity 80 for Iris. So that's the bare minimum information you can get by using get updated API call, because you have to write up all your code to deal with that handling of the information. And then what's going on with the CDC side? Let's switch the tab. The tab doesn't switch. All right. All right, let's see what's going on here. Probably too shy to show the information. All right, since it's not showing in the logs because the tab doesn't respond at this point, let's move on to the second thing we want to show you guys. Because we see the information being delivered, so what's the pros and cons by writing 2 pieces of code here? Let's look at Bob's code first. Bob's code is calling this get updated call by passing in the order item, that is a hard-coded string up there. That's order item. And then pass in the start and end time in the middle to specify the interval. So what happens is, if you are ever interested in a different entity name, you have to change the hard-code string on your own. And if you are ever interested in more entities, what do? You just have to specify more entity names here and use a different get updated for every single of them. That is really a hassle. And keep in mind that get updated call here actually is an extra API call that you made to Salesforce. It's not with the change itself, it's an extra call to hit the round trip back and forth. And that is not the only one you need, because you only retrieve back the record ID that's been changed. What else you need? You have to issue another API call down the road, right here. Actually, that makes the SOCL query to query back the interested fields information for you. That includes what? Product code and quantity. And from then on, you use the quantity number and deduct it from the inventory balance. That's what Bob has to do. So what actually Nancy can do here is a lot different. First of all, you actually use this thing called EMP connector. EMP stands for Enterprise Messaging Platform. That's the same framework being leveraged by Platform Event. Anyone of you heard about the platform event before or used it before? Okay, I see a lot nods on that on there. So what happens is we use the same subscription client, EMP connector, that's been publicly shared already on GitHub to all our Salesforce customers. You can download it and use it for free. One line of code here to initialize the subscription client. And then one more line here. You just do the connector dot subscribe. So by specifying the channel name here, /data/change events, you are subscribing to all the entities that's being supported so far by CDC. not just a water atom, not just water, but a bunch of other things. And then the second parameter passed in is the replay ID. Replay ID is the serial number you want to specify where you want to subscribe from the stream. In case your streaming is failed, in case your subscriber is dropped in the middle, you can still use the last time, the replay ID used the last time, and resume your subscription from then on, retrieve back all the changes you want. Isn't that convenient? And the last parameter you have to pass in is something called consumer here. So imagine that you can get all the information about all the entities supported by CDC. Maybe you are only interested in some subset of the entities. In that case, you use a consumer here to filter out what you want from the stream. So right here, one line here, we want to specify what is the entity name, what is the change type, and filter all the information you want only for all the item entity. And then after that, it's quite straightforward. Because you already got the JSON payload, you just retrieve back the interested field you want, product code and the quantity. And once you got the quantity, actually you can do the inventory update right away without any extra API calls back to Salesforce. And be aware that the change events actually is issued right in the same transaction that when the change happened earlier. So let's go back to see if we can show the logs right now. I'm having some typing issue right here. Because we want to show you what actually delivered in the payload, in the JSON body. That is very rich and more comprehensive information, so you get a direct impression about CDC's delivery.
No.
Yeah, for some reason, the thing is frozen, but you get a sense CDC actually is faster because it delivers at real time, and at the same time, the coding is easier and flexible to extend, and the less usage on the resource of Salesforce and its database. All right. Back to you, Larry. Thanks, everybody.
Okay. So, okay. So we've seen the code. From what you have seen, if you have changed data capture, your code is much cleaner because all you need to worry about is processing the change. Versus if you have get updated, you actually kind of mingle and mixing all your change logic with the capture logic, which is not very elegant. So, in summary, we have two different approaches into change data capture. One is polling, one is streaming. So if you look at polling, pretty much the options that you have today are SOQL and get updated API. With the SOQL, you probably have tried to done it before. You are getting into sysmod timestamp hell again. It's very hard if you have multiple objects. And if you have get updated, you also suffer from this same problem that you actually have to manage your state of your client. It's very complex. If you have streaming API, I think your major drawback is that it doesn't support all the standard objects. It only supports 7 of them, although it does support all custom objects. With platform event, you have to write your capture logic in your trigger. But change data capture doesn't suffer from any of those drawbacks. And this is, I think, the direction that we are going. So in summary, change data capture is going to provide you with simpler subscribers to deal with changes. It's a much elegant architecture. It decouples your capture from your processing. And it also doesn't put extra load on the Salesforce system, like get updated, because you have this extra SOQL that you actually need to go back to fetch your data. So it actually going to provide you with a more performant Salesforce system at the very end. So just want to shout out 10:30 Frontier Theater. We're going to continue our CDC discussion. We have CDC. How do you actually synchronize your data with data in your Postgres database? We're going to have an example. The client is also going to be immune from crashes. We're going to show you how to do that. 1 o'clock today, upstairs, room 2020. We have another CDC discussion today. You're going to meet our product manager, Jay Hurst, back there. So if you're interested in change data capture, You can come to us. You can talk to our product manager, Jay. We have the whole team here to support you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh,
just
I think
one last thing.
we
I
have,
just
we have
reopened
two more seconds.
just reopen the terminal right now, and you can see the body of the JSON printed payload, because all the information about every single field that's been changed also carried back to you through CDC events, not just the quantity or product code we talked about earlier, but also you see what is the quantity of your change. That's the order you've been updated. What's the timestamp? What's the change origin record ID? And right here, because we lost some tails before, but this is the product code for the word item. That's the create change item. And you get the ID as well. And a bunch of useful information that you can filter on as you wish. So yeah, that's all. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.